After some morning fog, we'll have mostly sunny skies today. High temperature at 85. Southeast winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Maybe an isolated shower or thunderstorm as we go through the overnight hours.
Just getting ready to roll here this morning. Welcome. Great to have you along. Want to ask you to please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber to the Greg Belfrage Show. All right, we're just getting ready to pull the trigger here.
Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com. The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage Show.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along this morning. Well, we've got a new indictment now. Jack Smith has filed a superseding indictment in the Donald Trump election case. This is now remember, the Supreme Court had said that Donald Trump and other former executives have broad immunity from actions that they take as president. They are presumptively immune for other actions taken while in office. So now Jack Smith is, with this superseding indictment, the core of this is the same. A part of what he's done, the filing now removes a former Justice Department attorney, Jeffrey Clark, as a co-conspirator in the case. And he's responding there to specific directions by the U.S. Supreme Court that conversations with Justice Department officials, then those are protected from prosecution. And Trump was prepared to install Clark as acting attorney general so that he could investigate then claims of election fraud. So he's bringing these charges, and of course we get a lengthy response from Trump on Truth Social. So Jack Smith then taking another run at it, and we'll see where this goes. Smith said, a lot of this legalese, so I'm trying to get through the legalese and put it in words that you and I, use in everyday conversation. So he's saying, he's reacting to the Supreme Court and what they said. The Attorney General has such authority. It's at odds with, some of the long-standing appointment practices in the Department of Justice, and this court should reverse. So it was Judge Eileen Cannon then that dismissed the documents case against Trump, and she was talking about Smith's appointment that it violated the appointments clause of the Constitution. And Smith in his appeal said, no, this was, the Attorney General validly appointed the special counsel who was properly funded. So taking another run at Donald Trump again, and Trump reacting to this. He said, this was Trump on Truth Social. Trump said, in an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt in Washington, D.C., in an act of desperation and in order to save face, the illegally appointed special counsel, deranged Jack Smith, has brought a ridiculous new indictment against me, which has all the problems of the old indictment and should be dismissed immediately. His Florida document hoax case has been completely dismissed. This is merely an attempt to interfere with the election and to be a distraction, distract the American people from the catastrophes that Kamala Harris has inflicted on the country. He said, like the border, migrant crime, and inflation, and he goes on. So it's a rather lengthy response from Donald Trump this morning, reacting to the charges now, an attempt to try to get this back in front of the court again. So this latest filing came after Smith presented the case against Trump to a second grand jury, which had not previously heard the matter. And so the second grand jury saying that charges were warranted against the president. I don't make too much of that because getting indictments is pretty easy. And we've got legal minds like Alan Dershowitz who is saying, you know, very, very easy to get indictments. So the fact that a court has, or excuse me, the fact that a jury has done this, that you've got those moving forward on it, not all that concerning to me. Also, a big story this morning. Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will sit with CNN for their interview. Isn't it interesting? What do you make of the fact that Kamala Harris is bringing along Tim Walz? She's not doing a sit down. Kamala Harris is not sitting down for an interview by herself. She is bringing Tim Walz. And I got a kick out of a headline. Stephen Cruiser does a morning briefing each day at PJ Media. And Stephen Cruiser says, Kamala is bringing a mansplainer chaperone to her first interview. Yeah, that's kind of the way it looks, right? So it'll be Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who will both be sitting down together. What she can't be that again, it's just crazy. But CNN gets the nod. So the interview will be conducted by Dana Bash, who is CNN's chief political correspondent. And that's coming up this Thursday. So tomorrow is when the interview will take place, tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Central Time. So they also are kicking off a bus tour through the battleground state of Georgia. This is the first time that Kamala Harris has sat with a journalist for an in-depth, on-the-record conversation since Joe Biden dropped his bid. And so what is it now, 38 days since her candidacy began? I think it's 38 days. So she will sit down for her first interview and bringing her chaperone, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, along with her. What do you take? What do you make of that? That to me is just absolutely incredible that she cannot sit down. I mean, that's very concerning to me. She cannot sit down and do an in-depth interview, apparently by herself. It's just absolutely crazy. So we'll wind up talking about that in a little bit more detail. I'm trying to take a look at this story. J.D. Vance has been pushing about he's keeping the number of days Kamala Harris has gone without an interview. He's keeping that front and center out there. And so Vance has said, I think it's really disgraceful, both for Kamala Harris, but also for a lot of the American media that participates in this stuff, to have a person who has been the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party for 17 days. This at the time it was about 17 days. Now it's 38 days, I think today is. So she'd been the presumptive nominee and refuses to take a single question from the American media. He said that in Wisconsin earlier this month. So, and then, so this is this is a piece from CNN, because I thought, well, okay, well let's go, since CNN is hosting the Kamala Harris Tim Walz interview. So I went to their website to see their story and what are they reporting. And it's okay. So this is about Kamala Harris and her first interview coming up with CNN, and she and Tim Walz. And a good part of this story is about Donald Trump and JD Vance. What have they got to do with the fact that she's doing a sit-down interview? This is why it just hurts your head. I think most days, you just feel this throbbing headache coming on. You start diving into this stuff. So here's CNN's reporting, telling us about, what's going on with Donald Trump and JD Vance. It's a good part of the CNN story. So it'll be Dana Bash that will do the interview, and that'll be coming up tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Time. Other stories that are out there this morning. This is, and I think some of the reaction to this, what happened at Arlington National Cemetery this week, and there were a couple of members of Donald Trump's campaign staff who had verbal altercation. Reports are, according to NPR. So again, I just have such trouble believing so much of what's reported. A verbal and physical altercation. A physical altercation, what does that mean? Does that mean I socked you in the jaw, or I pushed you away? Or I pushed my way past you? You know what I mean? A verbal and physical altercation between a couple of Donald Trump's campaign staff and a single staffer at Arlington National Cemetery. This was during the visit that Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard had this week at Arlington. And so the spokesperson for Donald Trump's campaign is disputing the whole report. He said there was no physical altercation as described, and we are prepared to release footage if such defamatory claims are made. The fact is that a private photographer was traveling now with Trump's team. So a private photographer that was with Trump. The fact is that a private photographer was permitted on the premises, and for whatever reason, an unnamed individual clearly suffering from a mental health episode decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very solemn ceremony. So responding in more detail to this, and again, they're saying no physical altercation took place, and there's a statement issued from a senior Trump advisor criticizing a despicable individual for physically preventing Donald Trump's campaign staff, and saying that, you've also got the Trump team saying that Trump is allowed to have an official photographer and or videographer outside of the main media pool, and that's what they had. They had one, and so I don't know what this person's deal is, who apparently was trying to block them, but then NPR is making physical altercation among Trump staff. There's no such thing. I mean, every story anymore, you have to do all of this homework to find out as to whether or not it's actually true. And then because the question that pops into my mind, you got a single staffer here who's upset with the Trump campaign for whatever reason, and is that person got Trump derangement syndrome? That's what I wonder. I wonder, is this somebody who just hates Donald Trump? Yeah, Trump derangement syndrome, and what is going on? It's just crazy. Also, there's a story of the Trump campaign yesterday pushing back against the narrative in the media that Kamala Harris is taking a more, that she's now in favor of the border wall. We talked about that yesterday. So Donald Trump, this is Carolyn Levitt, who is the national press secretary for the Trump campaign, released a statement about this. And Carolyn Levitt said, how much longer will the mainstream media allow Kamala Harris to hide and use staff to speak on her behalf? It's day 37 of zero interviews, and Kamala's anonymous campaign sources are now claiming she supports President Trump's border wall. This is a preposterous and false claim. I shared the Axios story with you yesterday. We talked about this, that suddenly Harris had done a flip-flop, and the folks over at Breitbart are really kind of taking aim at Axios for the story, but even Axios is saying she's flip-flopped on the border. I mean, I think it's hard to deny that. So that this story continues. FoxNews.com has got a piece. So they're saying of this whole thing, Kamala Harris now taking a very positive response to the border wall. The whole thing is just preposterous. It's not true. Kamala Harris talked about this. She said, last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign, so he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security. I know I have to contain laughter as I share this with you. Here is my pledge to you as president. I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed. I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border. So that's Kamala Harris today. And it's not surprising that the Donald Trump campaign is having problems with that, because now the latest issue on which Kamala Harris has reversed course, electric vehicle mandates. She has supported EV mandates for years, and now suddenly she's reversed course on that. So look at, again, the number of things to which she is reversing course on in order to get elected. And do you believe that she is now going to stand firm by whatever it is that she's purporting, or promising today once she's elected? Also, justthenews.com has a piece this morning. Nancy Pelosi. There's footage of a video that was shot on January 6th at the, this is as she was leaving the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th riot. New footage that has just been obtained this week, turned over to House Republican investigators, and a copy was obtained by Just the News. This was an interview that Nancy Pelosi's daughter was she was videotaping Nancy Pelosi for an eventual then HBO movie, and Nancy Pelosi was upset that the National Guard had not been called in, and she said, "We're calling the National Guard now? They should have been here to start out," she says. As she and her daughter are going through the Capitol tunnel. And in this footage, she can also be seen pressing for the sergeant at arms in the House of Representatives, pressing him to resign immediately over this. And she acknowledged that her fellow lawmakers had repeatedly pressed her ahead of January 6th to ensure that they had adequate security at the Capitol. And Pelosi on the tape can be heard saying, "How many times did members ask, are we prepared? Are we prepared? We're not prepared for the worst," Pelosi said. She said, "We will have totally failed, and we've got to take some responsibility." Well, that didn't last very long. I mean, Nancy Pelosi or others taking responsibility for what happened at the Capitol. But again, she said, "How many times did members ask, are we prepared? We're not prepared for the worst." The more we learn about some of these things, the more distressing it becomes. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. It's really great to have you along. Thanks for letting me join you this hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. Brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Currently, mostly cloudy, 57 here at Kello.
Weekend 6 to 9 p.m. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Okay.
On how to get rebates from major tire manufacturers. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
It's been over 4 years since the pandemic began, and for most, life has moved on, but not for small business owners. In March 2020, the Employee Retention Credit was created to be a lifeline, a promise of financial relief to keep small businesses afloat and their employees on payroll. Today, that promise has become a cruel joke. The IRS is sitting on a backlog of 1.5 million claims, and here's the kicker. 300,000 of those claims are ready to be paid out right now, yet the IRS does nothing. While our favorite restaurants and family-owned shops from Rapid City to Sioux Falls wait in distress for the tax refund they're rightfully owed, they're fighting a new war against sky-high inflation and a brutal labor market. We must act now. South Dakota's small businesses can't afford to wait. Call Senator John Thune today at 605-334-9596. That's 605-334-9596 and demand he hold the IRS accountable. This ad is sponsored by the Coalition to Preserve American Jobs.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-345-2789. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-345-2789. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-345-2789. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call him.
6:30. Mostly cloudy, 57 currently, Kello. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. Coming up, the former DSS employee charged with embezzling state funds has pled not guilty. Joe has the details coming up.
Allegations that could be interpreted as official acts subject to presidential immunity. Mr. Smith presented the case to a second grand jury, which had not previously heard the matter. Again, this all stems from the DOJ's insistence that the former president took what it believes were unlawful actions in his effort seeking to dispute the 2020 election. Fox's Kevin Cork, at least 9 Palestinian militants are reported killed in an Israeli military operation in the West Bank.
Palestinian officials report the volatile city of Jenin has been sealed off, with troops blocking entry and exit points. They report Israeli forces ripping up infrastructure at the city's refugee camp, a notorious militant stronghold.
Fox News' Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. The former DSS employee charged with embezzling state funds has pled not guilty. Lana Carroll, who worked in the Department of Social Services between 2010 and 2023, is accused of stealing $1.8 million from the Child Protection Services Program. Her bond was set at $50,000. Her trial starts December 4th in Pierre. South Dakota's reputation is growing brighter in the field of artificial intelligence. Efforts in the state's universities are the primary reason for that. Former Governor and now Senator Mike Brown says the end result is a brighter future for the state.
Our goal here is to make sure that young people in South Dakota stay here, they can work in here, they can do research here, but they can see a quality of life improvement here that keeps them and their families here.
Senator Brown says AI is critical to national security and has the potential to wipe out several forms of cancer and other diseases. 5 new emergency radio towers will soon be in operation here in Minnehaha County. Police, fire, and EMS have struggled with poor radio reception throughout the 814 square mile area, forcing many crews and officers to simply just use their own cell phones when communicating with dispatch. The $3.75 million improvement project is in the final stages of completion. Tax revenue generated from this year's Sturgis motorcycle rally dipped slightly compared to last year. The South Dakota Department of Revenue says tax receipts from the rally came in at $1.4 million, 3% under what was collected last year. In sports, one more day, football fans. The number 5 ranked University of South Dakota Coyotes open the 2024 season at the Dakota Dome when they host the Northern State University Wolves tomorrow night at 7. In Canaries baseball, the Sioux City Explorers were blanked 5-0 against the Birds yesterday. The Birds belted 4 home runs to help Ty Colbreth get his league-leading 12th victory. The Canaries and the Explorers face off again tonight at the Birdcage. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Morning fog becoming mostly sunny for the afternoon and warm, high of 85. Southeast winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. For this evening and tonight, we'll have partly cloudy skies, an isolated shower thunderstorm during the overnight. Better chance tomorrow afternoon into the early evening hours. It'll be a cooler day tomorrow, the high of 79. We're in Kelloland Storm Center. I'm Scott Lund.
You're hearing the news and views you just can't hear anywhere else. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com.
Both Mark Zuckerberg and the White House made an extraordinary admission this week, one that's not getting the media attention it deserves. And you can be the judge as to why. I'm Kim Commando for NetSuite, where business owners find a one-of-a-kind flexible financing program at netsuite.com/Kim. Mark Zuckerberg is suddenly very, very sorry about censoring individual conservative-leaning opinions on Facebook. At the time, they called this censorship content moderation. Most of the suppressed opinions were from millions of ordinary users who simply wanted to be heard as they discussed, sometimes very passionately, COVID, vaccines, face mask mandates, and school closures. And there's more. Zuckerberg says that Facebook was caving into tremendous pressure to censor from the Biden-Harris White House. Quoting Zuckerberg, "I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. This election is far too important to trust any social media." Enter to win a brand new iPhone at winfromkim.com. Attention small business owners, Are you tired of juggling multiple systems to manage your business? You don't have to do that anymore. Simplify your life with NetSuite. It's the #1 cloud financial system. Here's why. NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all into one platform, providing you one source of truth. Imagine reducing your IT costs and cutting the expense of maintaining multiple systems. You see, with SimpliSafe, you can easily improve efficiency by consolidating all of your major business processes. Say goodbye to manual tasks and errors. Join over 37,000 companies already benefiting from NetSuite. And here's some really exciting news. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for just a few more weeks. Now, I don't want you to miss out. Head to netsuite.com/Kim right now. That's netsuite.com/Kim. NetSuite, everything you need, all in one place. netsuite.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires. Your Give You More tire and automotive store. Financing programs available. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
The Sioux Falls Housing and Redevelopment Commission and their nonprofit partner, Affordable Housing Solutions, are empowering people, building futures. They connect you with safe, affordable housing programs, work with community partners to improve living situations, and develop housing options in our communities.
To protect your home from water damage, trust Brothers Gutters, your local veteran-owned experts. Our professional background check team offers installation, cleaning, repairs, leak guards, and heated cables to prevent ice dams. Visit brothersgutters.com today for a free estimate.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the GoodRx that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the
I'm rather quiet today, sorry.
Show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works with over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. And it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
You hear more and more about identity theft in the news every day. That's because so much of your personal info is out of your control, like your insurance provider that has your social security number and your favorite retailer that has your payment details. If they get breached, your information's vulnerable. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code PLAY at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Entertaining talk.
You are a quintessential drone. You're a moron.
News that affects you.
The latest inflation numbers are out.
It's everything you need to stay well informed. News Talk 1320, 107.9. Entertaining talk.
.638, mostly cloudy and 57. Great to have you along this morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. This hour brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, Special Counsel Jack Smith has filed a revised indictment against Donald Trump in the January 6th case. It's a superseding indictment, and I think he's reworked the indictment, but has he done so enough that Donald Trump is reacting to this and saying it's just more of the same that we have seen. But that is a big story this morning. Also, Donald Trump says that he and Kamala Harris have agreed on debate rules for the September 10th matchup hosted by ABC News. And he said that they will follow CNN rules, is what Trump said during the ABC debate. So they will be standing, and there will be no notes at the debate. Donald Trump says the rules are that mics will be muted, and Kamala Harris is still saying, the Kamala Harris campaign said still negotiating with ABC about that. I have a hard time believing that, I mean, those of us, if you're in business and you're dealing with contracts and broadcasters, specifically, I'm kind of familiar with broadcast contracts. They're bane of my existence at the moment. So, there's no contract? There was not a contract? Are we to believe that there was no contract that was signed and agreed to by the Donald Trump campaign and the Kamala Harris campaign that specifically laid out all of these things? I mean, that's what you and I are to believe. These are just conversations and it's all done on a gentleman's handshake? Who in the hell does business that way anymore? Nobody. Nobody does business that way. Seriously. Nobody does. So the idea then that this is not an already buttoned up deal, and Donald, that's what he's saying. Hey, we've agreed on the debate rules and we're ready to go. And Kamala Harris still in negotiations with ABC. Well, wouldn't it be a little bit late? Again, contracts in broadcasting are incredibly common, as I'm sure they are in a lot of industries. So the idea that, we're still negotiating, don't believe it for a moment. She's whining. They want to change. She's whining. That's what she's doing. She's whining. They want to change. Also, there is a new January 6th footage showing Nancy Pelosi's focus on Trump, as well as her regret for the National Guard not being there to protect the Capitol building on January 6th. You'll remember Donald Trump had said he could call up the Guard and would have done so. And Nancy Pelosi said no. And there's a great story at justthenews.com as she was fleeing the Capitol during the January 6th riot. She made it clear she didn't want to evacuate the building, and who would? I didn't want them to either. She expressed regret that the National Guard had not been pre-positioned to protect Congress ahead of the certification of the 2020 election results. And then she also in this footage calling Donald Trump a domestic enemy. So there are a number of stories. Again, the big story is coming from justthenews.com because this video footage, then it was turned over to House Republican investigators and a copy obtained by Just the News. And so Nancy Pelosi, we're calling the National Guard now. They should have been here to start out, she said. This was as they were walking through a tunnel under the Capitol. And then she said she was concerned about adequate security, and she wanted the top House security officer, Sergeant at Arms Paul Irving, to resign. The Irving reported to her. She wanted him to resign. And she said that her fellow lawmakers had repeatedly pressed her ahead of January 6th to make sure there was adequate security. She said, how many times did members ask, are we prepared? Are we prepared? We're not prepared for the worst. Nancy Pelosi could be heard saying. Then later she said, we will have totally failed and we've got to take some responsibility. And that's not what she has done. She has not taken responsibility. Also, Kamala Harris sitting down for her first interview with CNN. And, oh, by the way, Tim Walz will be there too. So it's Kamala Harris and Tim Walz giving. Have you noticed how now the two of them are like joined at the hip? Going to give their first joint interview to CNN's Dana Bash coming up this Thursday night. So tomorrow night, in other words. That, how do you feel about that? Her bringing Tim Walz along for this interview. I'm not saying that the vice presidential running mates are not important. Not saying that at all. I have been very impressed with J.D. Vance and the things he's out there saying. So I certainly think it can be so Kamala Harris doing her first interview and doing it with Tim Walz also there. That's not a serious interview. That's seriously, the two of them, that is not a serious interview. Because if she gets into trouble, he's right there to bail her out. And I'm looking for a president that can speak their mind, speak clearly. I want to know what they stand for. And I want to be able to be confident that they can stand on their own feet. Why is Tim Walz going to be a part of that? Also, other stories that are trending this morning. The Kelsey brothers have signed a podcast deal with Amazon. This is Travis Kelsey and his brother, Jason. They are taking their popular New Heights podcast to Amazon's Wondery. This is a 3-year deal that gives the company exclusive advertising, sales, and distribution rights. So this the podcast has become very popular. And so now you will, they announced this deal with Wondery yesterday. And that will begin with this week's episode, which drops today. So it also will include the back catalog of podcast content, along with exclusive rights to monetize and distribute audio and video episodes. Also trending this morning, the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, saying that he'll be presenting his victory plan to Biden, Trump, and Harris next month. So he was speaking at a forum yesterday, and he said the success of the plan would depend on President Biden and on whether the U.S. would give Ukraine what's in this plan or not. So he's going to present his victory plan then, not only to the president, but also to Kamala Harris and Donald Trump coming up in September. Another story is a sad one involving Mariah Carey, who is talking, she's mourning the death of her mom and her sister and saying the two of them died on the same day. So Mariah Carey was estranged from her sister, who had sued her back in 2021 for intentional infliction of emotional distress caused by some of the contents in her memoir. And Mariah Carey had said, it was safer to distance herself from her sister and her brother as a result of this. But Mariah Carey's mother and her sister died on the same day over the weekend. And she released a statement. She said, "My heart is broken that I've lost my mother this past weekend. Sadly, in a tragic turn of events, my sister lost her life on the same day. I feel blessed that I was able to spend the last week with my mom before she passed. I appreciate everyone's love and support and respect for my privacy during this impossible time. Also, Apple has announced a special event for the launch of the iPhone 16 that will be held on September 9th. And Apple's sending out invites for this September 9th event saying it's glow time for the iPhone 16, AirPods 4, and more. So it's glow time is the theme of that event. Also, we had over 200 former aides and interns for Bush, Romney, and John McCain. Over 200 all signed an open letter endorsing Kamala Harris for president. The more than 200 aides to former Republican presidential contenders, Mitt Romney, John McCain, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, they all signed this. They said while they have ideological disagreements with her, another 4 years of Trump would be untenable. Expect more of that. More of these Republicans, the rhinos. Expect more of that, as we move forward. They're endorsing Kamala Harris for president. They want to be on, that, it's such a, like the joy train, Also, we had Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have both joined Donald Trump's presidential transition team. So in the event that Donald Trump should win, his transition team will include Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, who will both be a part of that team. Also, some news from Ukraine. Ukraine's army chief says his troops control nearly 500 square miles of Russia's Kursk region. It's a story that's been out there over the course of this week. And it continues to be continues trending. Kyiv also successfully tested its first domestic-made ballistic missile. And that story is also trending just on its own. Also, the Israel-Hamas conflict has displaced thousands, according to reports. More and more families forced to flee after Israel issues new evacuation orders in Gaza, according to the Globe and Mail. And so the hopes for a ceasefire are not looking good. Also, a U.S. soldier who fled to North Korea will plead guilty to desertion. So this is a U.S. Army private who tried to flee to North Korea. And the latest is he will plead guilty to desertion as well as other criminal charges, according to his lawyer. This is Travis King. So you may remember the news last year. He ran, the U.S. Army private, ran into North Korea from South Korea. Now expected to plead guilty to multiple criminal charges, including desertion. Also, a judge has denied bond for a fired Florida deputy in the fatal shooting of Roger Fortson. You remember Roger Fortson? He was a black senior airman. And they had responded to the apartment for a call. The call was regarding a domestic disturbance, and they responded to his apartment. And during that, they shot him. And so the Florida deputy who was involved in that has been fired, now facing charges, and the judge has denied bond for the deputy. Also, an Israeli hostage has been rescued by troops in southern Gaza, according to Israeli Defense Forces. So this Israeli hostage rescued alive. Obviously, I guess if he found the person, it wouldn't be much of a rescue, would it? If they were dead. I mean, if you found their body, it wouldn't be much of a rescue. Other stories trending this morning. Oasis is reuniting after a 15-year hiatus. There's been an ongoing feud between Liam and Noel Gallagher. So next year, they'll be holding a reunion tour. So again, they've had a 15-year hiatus, and Oasis now reuniting. This was a big story yesterday, and I shared it with you. Donald Trump planning to form a space National Guard should he be elected president. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Bell's News Gallery. Thanks so much for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. 6:57, mostly cloudy, and 57. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Place to go when you...
Well, I want to thank you so much for letting me join you this morning. Please like and subscribe to the Greg Belfrage Show. Very much appreciated. Hope you'll join me at 9:30 for the 4th hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. So I hope to see you again soon. So long.